I've seen a lot about Your Eternity, for example, this sense. But I didn't expect the show be about this. I never expected to a silent voice author make this kind of story, and I never expected this show to hit me this hard. So today let's talk about Your Eternity author, about its manga, and of course about its anime adaptation, especially season 3. Hey, it's Matty, don't forget to smash that like button, drop a comment and subscribe to our channel for more anime and manga content like this. Let's dive in. Yoshitoki Oima is a creator whose biography pretty clearly fits the emotional core of her work. She was born on March 15, 1989 in Oogaki, Gifu Prefecture, and grew up in a household deeply connected to sign language. Her mother worked as a sign language interpreter, and that background became a direct influence on a silent voice. Her path into the manga was an instant superstardom. She first got attention in 2008 by winning a Newcomer Award for an early one-shot of a silent voice, then made her professional debut a bit later, doing work like the Murdoch's Crumble adaptation. A silent voice itself serialized in Weekly Shonen magazine in 2013, and later became a widely praised film adaptation, which cemented her reputation for stories that dig into guilt, communication, and the emotional cost of mistakes. Your Eternity grew out of a long-standing idea in Oima's head. She said the concepts existed long before she became a professional mangaka, and the title and tone were shaped by a very personal moment. Learning her grandmother might die. That proximity to grief pushed her toward a story about an immortal being learning what it means to be human. So a sense of loss, memory, and empathy became the engine of a series. A few production and award notes that I find interesting. She is not just a one-hit wonder. To Your Eternity won Best Shonen Manga at the Kanansha Manga Awards, and the series has repeatedly recognized by critics and libraries for its literary ambition. She's also contributed in other ways in the industry, early adaptation work, special illustration, which shows she's been both versatile and steadily collaborative. What I personally take away from Oima's story is this. She writes from a place of real feeling and consequence. Her background, fame and the early awards, and long-held ideas, and the way she learns into grief and empathy, make her words feel lived in. The tragedies land because you can sense they came from someone who thought deeply about loss, long before they put pen to paper. The emotional honesty is why a silent voice and To Your Eternity hit me so hard. Now when we get acquainted with Oima, let's move to manga. To Your Eternity grabbed me from the first quiet pages and never really losing its grip. Yoshitoki Ōima launched the series in Weekly Shonen magazine back in November 2016, and it grew into a long, strange journey that only finished recently, a story told across dozens of volumes that tracks an immortal being slow learning about life, loss, and what makes us human. What makes manga special for me is how it makes us intimate human moments with generally epic score. The core concept and undying entity that keeps taking forms and learning from the people it meets. Let's Oima write tiny, heartbreaking character sketches one chapter and then leap decades later to show the long cost of those events. The art lands hard on facial expression and quiet atmosphere, so when a loss lands, it lands hard. There's also a real personal note behind the tone. Oima has talked about how her own experience with her grandmother's death shaped the title and emotional focus of the series. That grief-informed approach is obvious in a way. Some arcs treat memory, care, and the moral weight of watching people you love disappear. It gives the series a deliberate, mournful heart that I think is a real long-running shonen. Critically and culturally, To Your Eternity made noise. It won major recognition, including the Kanansha Award for Best Shonen Manga, and pushed a lot of readers to rethink what a genre series can do when it commits to tragic, reflective storytelling. That mix of awards and passionate reader reaction is one reason the series kept stepping up its ambition as it went on. At the same time, the manga isn't without its debates. I know that threads where readers adore the early village arcs for their brutal beauty, but feel the series shifts on later in ways that don't click for everyone. For me, the tonal shifts didn't kill the experience, they complicated in interesting ways, but I can totally see why some people got frustrated with pacing or certain creative turns. The conversation online made me read later chapters more carefully, which I actually appreciate. So, my bottom line, Your Eternity is one of those manga that asks you to sit with uncomfortable feelings. It's often devastating, frequently beautiful, and consistently ambitious. If you want a story that treats empathy and mortality as the engine of plot, and that isn't isn't afraid to make you feel the price of even victory, this one worth the ride. Let's move to the season that broke my heart, To Your Eternity Season 1. Season 1 hit me as one of the rare anime that can be quietly brutal and strangely uplifting at the same time. The series premiered on April 12, 2021, ran for 20 episodes, and was animated by Brian Bass, with Masahiko Murata directing. It was delayed from an early schedule because of COVID, but when it arrived, it immediately set its own. That's more meditative than most shonen. What stuck with me was the show's emotional architecture. Sentences are often simple and slow, but they compound into those devastating payoffs. The March and Gyu arcs, in particular, are the kinds of episodes that don't just make you sad, they change how you think about the characters. Critics pick up on the same melancholic power, plenty of viewers called the season a bleak, beautiful masterpiece. At the same time, the community conversation wasn't one note. A lot of viewers praised the first and last parts of the season, while pointing out that the middle section feel uneven to some people. And some threads even mentioned moments where the animation quality dipped compared to the show's best episodes. That unevenness doesn't kill the experience for me, but it does make the emotional hates feel even sharper by contrast. Musically and technically, the show added to its atmosphere. The opening by Hikaru Tada and Ryo Kawasaki's score gives those quiet senses a sense of weight and memory that lingers after an episode ends. So my take, season 1 is slow burning and often brutal, but it's also one of the most sincere exercise in empathy I've seen in anime. If you want a show that makes you feel the cost of every connection, this one does it in a way that sticks with you. Season 2 followed story deciding to stop eating asin and start asking brutal questions. The tone here lands harder in the large-scale conflict and sacrifice. There are moments of straightforward, raging tragedy that hit like a punch, and specific episodes, episode 18 in particular, left me shaken because the show stopped holding back and demanded real consequences. At the same time, I felt the season moved toward war, changing the show's rhythm. Some of the intimacy and slow built empathy that made season 1 so special gets compared under the weight of bigger, bloodier set pieces. That shift is part of why the community split. I saw threads where people praise the season's emotional power, and others arguing it lost some of the quiet magic that makes the early arcs sing. Reading those discussions made me appreciate the season's ambitions, while noticing what it traded away. Musically and thematically, the season still lands. Hikaru Utada Pink Blood stayed as the sonic anchor, and the score kept it lingering, mournful tones that make the quiet senses matter as much as the loud ones. For me, season 2 is harsher and bolder, not always comfortable to watch, but often unforgettable because it refuses easy answers. Season 3 finally drops us in the modern era of a story, and the shift changes everything. The world feels closer to our present day, with new social structures, technology, and conflicts that force Fushi to learn different rules of being human. Plot-wise, the season is expected to adapt a new world arc and Mimori arc from manga. Those two arcs are the big remaining chunks of the second act, and together they push the story forward by centuries, while bringing us into the time and place where the final revelations start to line up. That means we go from the smaller, intimate tragedies of the past to large-scale social questions about memory, identity, and what society does with an immortal being in its midst. On a production level, Drive returns, but Musket is also listed as joining the staff this season, and the trailers, new visuals show some clear changes in framing and tone. Everything looks a bit bolder, more cinematic. That makes sense because the story gets bigger here and benefits from a slightly different directional flavor. Community expectations are split in the way I expected. A lot of people are hyped for the epic payoff, the modern setting, the bigger stakes, and the promise of answers. But there's also a sizable, chorus warning that this part of the manga has heights that are extraordinary and lows that feel like slog to some readers. Fans calling part of those arcs drastic heights and lows, and this caution shaped how I approached the first episodes. My take, I'm excited because season 3 looks like the part of a story where everything Fushi learned get tested against a civilization that messy and modern. It's the emotional and philosophical payoff after all the small, brutal lessons. At the same time, I'm bracing for tonal swings. When the show hits those big moments, it can be transcendent, but the road between them sometimes drags. Either way, this is the section that will decide how the whole narrative lands for the most viewers, so I'm watching closely. That was my take on To Your Eternity manga and anime. If you have your own, drop it in the comments below. And don't forget to like this video and subscribe to our channel for more anime and manga content like this. Thanks for watching, that was Matty, see you soon.